Welcome to the first episode of Howling at the Moon. I'm your host, Vincent Green, and I am joined today by Corey Clark, the man that goes by the moniker Poltergeist OD. Corey, tell the folks who you are and what you do, man.
What is up? It's good to be back. I'm Poltergeist OD. I rap about horror movies. If you like rap, hip hop, horror movies, or one or the other, you'll probably like my shit.
Yeah, and you're from Canada, so like it must be weird, like over there at the moment, because I know there's a lot of free speech issues and stuff like that. Do you have any issues with that when you're doing rap? Like, because I've listened to a lot of your stuff, especially today, and you don't hold back.
No, I try not to. Sometimes I do. The stuff I record isn't the stuff I think, you know?
Yeah, that's why we're not speaking to you from a jail cell.
It gets worse. It gets worse up here.
Yeah, dude. Like I've done that so many times. Like rewrites, you're like, yeah, I just can't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Dude. I've written so many bars where I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I should say that.
Like, yeah, but like, sometimes like self-censorship is good because it gives you ways of thinking other ways. But sometimes you just kind of have to leave it in there, don't you? Though, like, you know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah,
like,
every now and then. Like I just wrote a line. I forget what the buildup was, but the punchline was like, "Call me COVID-19 because I'll kill your grandma." I was like, "Damn! Like, should I keep that in? Because that's pretty fucked up."
Oh my god, dude, Corey's coming out hot.
Yeah, that's an iffy one. That's one that like might not make the final cut. We'll see.
It might go viral though. Wait,
yeah, but you don't want to go viral for being that guy. The guy.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. Like Logan Paul, like he like chill out beside like a dead person in the suicide forest in Japan. If he can come back,
yeah. Now he's fighting Mike Tyson. He's gonna die.
No, that's Jake Paul, his brother.
Oh,
he's
that's Jake. Oh, yeah.
They're pretty interchangeable.
My age is showing.
Yeah, dude. But like you say, like at the start of the show, you're saying you're a horror rapper, and like that's a pretty unique combination. Like, you know, especially from where I'm from, like over in Ireland here, like that doesn't, like, that's not something we hear of generally. So like, what made you, like, obviously you decided to create some sort of synergy between two of your passions. You can clearly see your gigantic horror collection in the background. I met you through a horror group. I know that you have a ridiculous breadth and width of knowledge in terms of horror movies. So what was it that made you kind of have this kind of like synergistic thing where you go, I love rap, I love horror, let's combine the two, let's make babies, like, you know what I mean? So talk to me about that.
I mean, it started like OD stands for Obscene Division, which is my two best friends. We're in a rap group. We're actually working on another album right now. But so I've been rapping with them since like 2010, 2011. Started getting shows and stuff in 2012. Started like, you know, gaining some traction here. I went to LA from Mission Underground, Team Backpack, Cyphers and stuff like that. So like I was starting to gain a bit of traction locally, and some guy who was already a fan of what I was doing. And like, cause like I generally rap just hard horror oriented stuff, but not like specifically about horror movies at that point. So he was making a Halloween documentary, a fan made one that fell through due to legal reasons. But he asked me just as a fan if I would write a song based on Halloween, on Michael Myers. So I thought that was a cool idea. I sent that idea to Mock Beats, one of my guys, one of my beat makers in Amsterdam, and he hit me back within like an hour with this sick Halloween beat. I wrote the song within like an hour or two, so it just came really naturally to me. And when the documentary fell through, I just put it out as a single anyway. I was like, well, here you go, here's the song I've been working on. And it got a really good reception. Like, people really enjoyed it. So I was like, well, what else can I do? Like, what other horror movies do you think I could like rap about? So I think the next one I did was The Tall Man from Phantasm, which is like a personal one to me. That's one of my favorite franchises. And then I started doing more silly stuff like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Gremlins, Mars Attacks, just like movies that I like. I started taking requests after a while. So like I kind of just fell naturally into it after that documentary fell through. And now I'm the horror movie rapper. It's weird. Like I ended up getting into movies now. Like I'm writing movies for credits. I was in the end of Carousel 3 on Tubi, streaming now. Or buy it. I would suggest you buy it. Shout out Steve Rudzinski. He's an amazing director. He did Shingles, the movie. Super fucking hilarious movie. I'm doing The Dead Place by Michael Pickle with David Howard Thornton, the guy who played Art the Clown in Terrifier. I'm doing another one called Air Fryer Slaughter that just got crowdfunded. It's straight up. It started out, my buddy Matt Skinner on Facebook. My buddy Matt on Facebook just like said, what if there was a horror movie with a killer air fryer? That's never been done. And so this indie filmmaker, MMH Productions, hit the guy up and he's like, let's make that.
Oh my God.
And so that's just how it was just a joke at first. And now it's like fully funded. They're already filming. I'm doing the song at the end credits. Like it's wild how that shit just kind of like happens sometimes.
Dude, like you have to send me a link to that movie when it comes out.
Oh,
like 1,000,000%.
I'll be bragging about that for years.
So like when now that you're saying like you're kind of branching out, you are like, you know, a rap fan, you're a horror fan, and now you're branching out into horror movies in terms of doing like scores and soundtracks and all this kind of stuff. Like what, like me and you were being huge horror fans. Like, you know, we met, like as I said, in horror groups, and you were on a previous podcast I did before Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, where we talked about Shaun of the Dead and some other zombie movie. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like what is it that influenced you in terms of like, did you change your style at all when it came to movies? Like when you look back at horror movies, because like if any kind of genre, horror and the score are really paired hand in hand. A good score often elevates a horror movie to iconic levels. If you look at Halloween, The Thing, Christine, like, you know what I mean? Even like even more modern, look at Stranger Things, like the score and that, like the soundtrack is just iconic as much as the show almost. And what were your influences like when you decided, oh, I'm going to work with movies, or you get the opportunity to work with movies? Did you go back and look at the classics? And because like when I listen to your songs, there's a lot of like, I can hear the influences from the movies themselves in terms of the beats you use and the scores that you use and stuff like that, and the backing tracks. So like, what was it, or who was it that influenced you in your style in that kind of way? Like,
a little bit of everything, really. I mean, like whenever I write a song specifically like about a movie or for a movie, I try to like take on that character, right? Because I write from the perspective of the villain. Like, what if what if Michael Myers was a rapper? What would he rap about? What would he say? How would he kill you in his song? Stuff like that. So like, I try to like for Michael Myers, for like Leatherface, the Tall Man, Ghostface, and stuff. I try to be more like serious and like aggressive, and try to like keep that tone of the character. But for more like silly stuff, like, you know, Killer Clowns and Gremlins and The Frighteners and stuff like that, I try to like do punchlines and jokes, and my voice is lighter and I'm acting a little bit looser. So, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like voice acting, but you rhyme the whole time. And as for the beats, I'll usually like send the idea to one of my guys. I like to work with a guy named Squib Sounds on Instagram. Sometimes I'll just like send him an idea for a movie. Like I was like, I want to do a Leatherface song, and then like a few days later he sent me back a sick Leatherface beat with like a quote from Chop Top in it and everything. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I'll write to. So like, he knows what I want, he knows the style I want, and he knows that if I do a sillier song to make like a lighter beat, for movies that like I'm writing for the end credits and stuff like that, I usually like to send him a copy of the movie so that he can watch it and get you know, like a feel for it, kind of the way I do lyrically.
so you get the music done first and then you write the lyrics to it, or is it vice versa?
Well, I mean, like I'll send off the idea for the beat, and then I'll start taking my notes and like rhyming stuff here and there, writing down quotes from the movies, scenes that I want to talk about, kills, and just like kind of have like a list of rhymes or words or phrases or whatever that I want to use in a note. And then once I get the beat, that's when I start flowing it all together and trying to like push it all into like a coherent verse.
And do you have a narrative in your head? Like, because you say you write from the POV of the killer or the villain or whatever. So do you create a narrative in your head as if you're telling a story, and then when you get the beat, that like that kind of fills in the blanks or helps you with the flow, or what way do you do? Like, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. Like by the time I get the beat, it depends on how long that takes. Sometimes it's like a day or two, sometimes it's like a week or two. It depends on his workload and how much work he puts into the beats. But yeah, like I'll have a pretty good idea of how I want it to go. I just don't know what it's going to sound like yet. But like lyrically, I have, I know I want to start my song by saying this. Like when I did Carousel 3, in the first Carousel, the very first line in the entire series is I hate this place. So I started my whole song with I hate this place. People come here to be happy. What a waste of space. So I'll have ideas here and there, and like maybe I want to end it with this, or maybe the hook should sound more like this. This is the vibe of this verse, and I'll have little notes next to it saying like do this angrily, do this more light, turn up the volume and do a low voice for this part. So yeah, like the song's pretty fleshed out by the time I get the beat, and then once you get the beat, it just fucking snaps together.
Yeah, so you write like an outline and then you use the beat to kind of just like bring it to life pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you do the same thing with your writing.
Yeah, like I've got notebooks and notebooks of outlines, and like what I'll do is I'll do broad outlines, and then I'll go into a scene outline. Like I'll do like 5 chapters, and then I'll do like a broad outline of the main events of those chapters, and then when I start writing the chapters, I'll go back and I'll go chapter 1, and then I'll get the broad outline. I'll break it down into a scene by scene outline. So by the time I write the chapter, I have a chronological order of events. And then I just kind of let the scenes take me where they go, but I know exactly what has to happen, what the end goal of every scene is before I start writing. But like I'm quite open to how the scene develops, if that makes sense. But it has to
me
end.
too. I mean, I love working with other people. Like everybody asks me if I make my own beats or if I do my own mixing and mastering and stuff. I don't. I get somebody else to make the beat, and I get somebody to mix, somebody to master. Because when I first started, I went to like a professional studio. And I just asked for like general advice, and that was one of the pieces of advice he gave me. He's like, if you can avoid it, avoid doing certain parts of the process, because the more ears, the more ideas you have flowing into this one project, the better it's going to be in general. Because you have an idea of how it's going to sound in your head, but you're only one person with certain influences. So you get like 3 or 4 people who all have like a professional background in music and have the ear for like what sounds good. You're going to come up with something way better than what just your brain is going to come up with,
Yeah, exactly. Like, because when I hired an illustrator, and when I seen like she was able to bring my ideas to life in a whole new way, give it a whole new perspective, and then that led to me in later drafts altering certain things because of the adaptations she made with her illustrations, and how I was able to perceive the characters in a different way because she'd drawn them in a specific way or whatever, and that gave me a whole new kind of viewpoint. And then when I hired an editor, which is probably like a producer for you, is probably the equivalent of an editor for me, where they go in and they see the final product and they can make tweaks and stuff that you never even seen, or lead you in directions that you never even know to go. And it actually straightens you, because the next time you go into the creative process, you have that like a different mindset also attached to your own mindset, because you're starting to look at things slightly differently. And that's like, I think like the best thing about the creative process is actually collaboration, because even if they're not actually there at the outset, but if they're there to actually help you develop it in new ways, it's like it's incredibly important. And like that's like when you say like you got someone to do the master and to do the beats, that they pick up on different things that you wouldn't even see, and then that will influence you to see things in a completely different way. And I think that's why, like, if you do collaborate with the correct people, that you will actually develop and get stronger and stronger. Like my writing, like from my first draft of River Bones, which was pure hot garbage, like compared to getting it ready to be put, you know what I mean? Like getting it ready to be published, like literally, like it's day and night, like, and that's all because of the collaborative process with illustrators and with my editor. And because like my editor, like recently she just did a review of my second novel, a novella called Lonely Lighthouse. She sent me back a 6-page like outline of do this, the pace and whatever, and it makes you look at things completely differently, like, you know what I mean? And I think that's completely like a really, really important thing when you're creating that you actually get to collaborate with other people. That's why I've always wanted to write something with someone else. I haven't had the opportunity to really do that yet. I worked on something with my former co-host Noel John Toohey before, but like it was really fun because you're bouncing ideas around. Because like you should know, like you know as well as anyone, like when you're writing, it's a very isolated kind of experience, you know what I mean? You're there with your ideas, and even though that's fun and cool and really does like set your brain alight in different ways, but like getting to collaborate with someone and bouncing ideas around is one of the most fun things ever, I think. And I think that's why a writer's room would probably be an incredible experience. Like,
for sure.
Like, what kind of, I know when I listen to your music, like a lot of it's inspired by the classics. You know, we spoke a little bit about Killer Clowns from Outer Space. You mentioned Halloween. I was listening to your song Pumpkinhead earlier. Like your Stephen King song King was incredible. Like that's, I want to jump on that in a sec. But like, what modern movies do you think? Like, is there anything more modernistic that you could see you maybe writing a song about in the future?
I've been asked to do a Terrifier song quite a few times, so I think that's probably one of the more recent franchises that I might hit as soon as possible.
Yeah, man, Art the Clown. Oh my lord.
Yeah, he's like the new. He's one of the new icons in horror. I mean, whether we like or accept that, he is. So
yeah, and at the moment, like, if any genre of any of them is like, horror is really missing some new icons. Like it really is, because like Michael Myers, 60 years old. Like yeah, you need to start rebooting these franchises instead of making these like delayed sequels, because like Michael Myers
and having them in like horrible order.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's like, and stop retconning stuff. I think that is so lazy. I hate when they retcon stuff. They're just like, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they don't exist anymore. You know, that 20 years of cinema that you've held dear your whole life, that doesn't exist anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and like, Jamie Lee Curtis has a daughter now instead of a son. Like, but why can't she have both? Like, if you want to, like, it's so easy. Like, I think if you look at the Halloween chronology, it actually is quite easy. It would have been to have Halloween H40, as I like to call 2018's version, that like to have that and actually include so much of the earlier elements from the sequels and still tell pretty much the same story. Because you could have Josh Hartnett come back, like just say, like, you know, she abandoned her daughter. You could have like Jamie Lloyd come back, or like, you know, Danielle Harris. You could have her come back instead of like recasting these people. These characters already existed. She had a daughter. Laurie Strode's daughter was already there. Why do you need to create a new daughter? Like the history is there, the lineage is there, and the fan service. Like, you can say what you want about Star Wars, they got fan service to a degree when they came out with Force Awakens, and they had all the golden oldies come back, like, because that's going to get you a pop every time. It's like when you see Spider-Man No Way Home, and you know, and the Ultimate Spider-Man show up, and the cinema goes crazy. You do that in Halloween, you bring back Josh Hartnett, you bring back Danielle Harris, like you bring back all this, right? Like, if you could have gotten Paul Rudd, like, how do you replace Paul Rudd with, what's his name? Anthony, or no, is it Anthony Michael? What's his name? The dude, Evil Dice Tonight.
Fuck! What? You got me on the spot now.
The dude from Breakfast Club, isn't he? From the Breakfast Club.
What's his name? Not Anthony Michael Hall. No.
Yeah,
no.
That's it. That's it. No, that's it. I think that's it. Evil Dice Tonight. Like, yeah. like,
come on. I hope so.
yeah. I'll Google it in a sec. But you know, Anthony Michael Hall sounds right. But like, yeah, like, I just don't understand why. Like, what is your thoughts on retconning and rebooting? Like, because that's something that's a pet peeve of mine in terms of horror, especially. Like,
I'm kind of open to it. I don't really care either way. Like, a lot of people, like, when they'll announce a reboot or whatever, they're gonna ruin it. They're gonna fucking ruin something that came out 40 years ago. Like, yeah, okay, that movie is erased from history once this one comes out. Like, come on. But
yeah,
whether it's good or bad, I just try to keep an open mind. Most of the times it's not very good, but sometimes it's surprising. You know, you come up with good material, but some franchises need to fucking die, though. Like, just stop. Like, they should have stopped doing Hellraiser movies after like the fucking third one, man.
The new one was better than many of the sequels, though.
I didn't expect the new one to be as good as it was.
It was 13 Ghosts, but like, yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah. They're doing
Because
another
like,
13 Ghosts as well. They're doing a series with all 13 episodes based on each ghost.
that's long overdue. Like
Yeah, it's like
there's
fucking
certain
25
franchises.
years too late.
Yeah, man, I actually really
Whatever, they
enjoyed
could
the
probably do
remake.
more with it now, but how
Yeah,
much you want to bet it's going to be just fucking slapped together? I hope it's not, but
where's it landing? Is it Hulu or is it Netflix, or do you know like where it's landing? Because like I think
I have no idea.
where it releases, like Netflix, God love them, like they do some good horror, but the horror selection's not great on most streaming services. That's why, like, Tubi and Shudder are so successful in the horror communities, like, because
Yeah,
they give a better variety, like, um recently Suitable Flesh came out on Shudder. Did you check that one out? That
I
was
did.
pretty decent. What did you think of that movie?
I loved it. It's unique, cool, fun.
It's kind of like Freaky Friday or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh shit! You remember that? You remember that fucking that movie Freaky with Vince Vaughn, where it was literally just like like Freaky Friday with a serial killer? That was an awesome movie. I keep forgetting
Yeah.
about that. You just reminded me of it.
That movie is really good, man. Have you ever seen Fresh, where Sebastian
Yeah,
Stan is like a cannibal or something in it,
that was
man?
one of my favorite movies. That was like 2019, right, or 2020? It was pretty
Mm.
recent.
Yeah, like, but like, do you think like horror is suffering downtown? Because like when we're talking about franchise being bled, like look at Scream, like
Yeah,
you did a Ghostface, like, you know what I mean, like, especially now with the controversy with it losing its two main stars of its new trilogy, the recent announcement that Nev Campbell is coming back, Sidney Prescott, like, you're a big horror dude. Like, what do you think of, like, look at like the recent releases: Halloween, Hellraiser, two more Scream movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, do you think, like, when you look at Art the Clown and Terrifier, that we're missing more of these new franchises?
well, I think a lot of people aren't willing to give a new franchise or an original idea any of their time. Like the reason they keep fucking bringing back these huge franchises and like keep doing the same thing over and over is because it made money last time they did it, and it's gonna make money this time when they do it because everybody will just fucking flock to what they know.
Yeah.
When people say like Hollywood's out of ideas, there's no original movies, that's just a lie.
Yeah, the problem is as well, like, post pandemic as well, like we were always going to get it for the next 5 years, that to get people back into cinemas, they were going to actually just keep releasing things that already have built-in fan bases, and that's why
Yeah.
we've just been getting sequels and superhero movies and reboots and
Yeah,
like and all
because I
these
mean, like
retcons.
100 original movies come out every year, and nobody fucking
Mm.
watches them because
Yeah,
everybody's busy watching the latest Marvel movie or fucking whatever's promoted at the top of the
yeah.
list. That's the only thing that fucking really pops off. Nobody
Mm.
nobody goes and sees a movie that was like barely promoted or promoted in underground circles.
Yeah, that's why streaming services are so important. Like, because they actually, like, instead of you saying, "Oh, I'm not going to go see this movie I never heard of," if you're on a streaming service, you're like, "I might check this out." And I think that's why, like, there is a few of these more independent movies. Like I was speaking to you before we came on air about a classic horror story, that Italian American movie. Like, a lot of people would watch that on a streaming service that won't go to the theaters to see it. And I know box office is king when it comes to movies, but like, we live in an environment now, or a world now, where streaming numbers are very important. Like you spoke earlier as well, like, about streaming when you're a musician and artist and stuff like that. So like, I think now we're seeing, obviously not now, but like the shift has already happened, unless it's a tentpole movie with a built-in fan base, then it's going to end up on streaming. And sometimes it's a detriment to certain movies because there's a big idea that doesn't get the budget that it requires. But I think for likes of horror, man, like look at like VHS. Like they got the latest VHS movie came out, well, it was like a year ago, or like last year or something, and that landed on Shudder, and that got a resurgence, I assume, because like, or how I discovered VHS, like I'd heard of them, but how I watched the entire anthology was on Shudder. And I'm assumed, like, just like me, loads of people came upon it, and the streaming numbers were high, and that led to a sequel. So, like, do you think, like, when you look at indie movies and horror, that a lot of people won't go and see stuff, but they'll stream it, and maybe that's a good thing for horror and smaller movies.
There is a problem with streaming though, where it's like separating content by what streaming service you have. Like I know a lot of people like won't go out of their way to search for something or try to find a movie. If I recommend a movie and it's not on Netflix or Hulu and all you have is Netflix or Hulu, you're not going to go out of your way to try to find that movie. You're just going to be like, oh, I don't have it, fucking whatever, and then you'll never see that content. So like, I live in Canada. I don't. There's a few services we don't get. I don't think we get Peacock. I think that's one of the ones we don't get. But like, we get most of them. But if something original goes on Peacock where I can't stream it anywhere else, I don't give up. Like I'll try to find a copy of the movie or whatever. Like I still buy physicals, so
yeah,
that's another thing that's dying too. Like physical copies of movies, just like they're not printing them anymore. So like my collection is kind of just stuck on like 2015 and earlier.
Yeah, but if you look at like physical media, right? So look at recently the upsurgence of LPs and records. Like they just disappeared for a while and they came back. So
they're bigger now than they were when they were fucking.
Exactly.
I wanted to say they're bigger now than when they were big. I guess like in a weird way that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. Like, yeah, it's like they're bigger now than when they were first prevalent, pretty much. Like, you know, so like, and the thing is, because like I see it happening, because like people always say like the old saying, like, you know, if I download something, if that's not ownership, then piracy isn't stealing. That's what they say. But like, I think people are people, and eventually we're going to be like, I still want ownership over my content. I still want to buy something and keep it forever. I don't want to be at the whim of a streaming services rights deal. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that'll come as swings and roundabouts. You're going to see all this back catalog of DVDs and Blu-rays and all this, and it'll come back around. It will. It's inevitable. Like, if you see the return of the record, like, you know, and you'll probably see the return of the CD, and like, and it will come back around. Just people need a sense of ownership, and people like to collect stuff. It's just in our nature. So like, I know
a lot of people are worried about the spatial issue. Like I'm dealing with it right now. Like I have fucking like 100 movies stacked on my floor behind this camera right now. I don't know what to do with them. Don't know where to put them, but I can't get rid of them because they're fucking my movies. But yeah. Like I get that, and I get like the convenience of streaming and pirating and this and that, but I don't know. I like holding something, man. Like there's nothing like holding a movie in your hand, opening it up, going through the booklet, and like seeing like old promotions in VHS covers, like old promotions, like send in this little slip with your name and a check for $5, and we'll send you a T-shirt or stuff. Like that shit's cool to me, man. That's like lost promotion history.
It's like our special features. Like I love the special
bonus features is a huge thing for me, bro. I've been saying since streaming came out, since it started, when the fuck are they going to start adding bonus features to these streaming services? Like when I click on a movie, there should be a menu where I can, you know, like select the language and well, I think you could do that anyway now, but like bonus features, behind the scenes, bloopers, commentary, stuff like that. That would be fucking awesome for streaming services.
Yeah, and most of that content's already out there because it was on the special editions of these DVDs. Like I've got Jaws, and it was like, I think it was the 30th or 40th, I can't remember, anniversary edition I got. And there's like, man, it's a disc with the movie, and there's a separate disc, and it's got a 2-hour long documentary about the making of Jaws. It's got interviews with everybody involved in it. Like it's got like all the behind the scenes things. It talks about Bruce the shark, the mechanics, all the things that went wrong. What was
and
like
that's so cool for like major fans like us, man. Like I love learning about like the lighting, even just anything. I bought the movie Seven, like a special edition of that movie, and there was like 8 or 9 different commentaries, one for lighting, one for acting, one for directing, one for producing. Like it was really cool, and like you get all aspects of that movie. So now like when I watch that movie, I'm thinking about all this stuff and going, this is genius. It makes you appreciate it a little bit more.
And it helps you as a storyteller, like, you know, like, I've got zero training of as a writer. Like, I've got tips and stuff like that, like I've learned on the job or whatever, but like nearly any kind of knowledge I have about pacing or storytelling or dialogue or any of this stuff comes from watching movies. And then when you watch special features and you see how they develop and see the thought process they had when they're thinking up stories and plot lines and little threads and stuff like that, and continuity. Or like James Cameron did like a 600-page outline for Elite Battle Agent, and he like gives it to Robert Rodriguez afterwards. Like 600 pages. Could you imagine what his
Yeah.
outline looked like for Avatar? You know what I mean? Like, so like I'm always like, you know, after I found out he did a 600-page outline for Elite Battle Angel, I started planning my own science fiction story. And it's going to take me about 2 years to create the world, because I want to do like this thing where he did, like where the world was so well conceptualized. By the time you're writing, you don't have to think about where anything is. You have this appendices where you could, that'll inform your story, your world, whatever, your geography, everything. And I think like that's such a genius thing to do, because when you get to the page, if your world is already fully realized, you're just telling a story that exists in that world. Like it should
Yeah.
just flow out of you, like, you know what I mean? And that's
I
that's
mean,
something
that's kind of
that's
how
something I
I
strive
write.
towards. Yeah,
I
man,
write
that's
in
exactly.
little sections and paragraphs and everything, and everything's pretty much all done. And then, you start sitting down with the beat, start writing the song and putting it all together, and it flows together perfectly. Like by the time I'm ready to actually put the song together, it's a lot less thinking because I already did all the thinking.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, it's almost, you're just reciting a story that has to be told or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's like, that's what I always say when like you're in that flow state, that it's hard to actually to convey to people that don't try it, like they don't try to write, and you don't get lucky enough to get into the flow state where everything is so well developed and fleshed out that you see it, and it's so well, you have it so clearly imagined in your head that you're not even thinking as you're writing. It's just like
Yeah.
you're transcribing or something. It's so weird. Like it's like you're a stenographer to your own brain or something, and you're just trying
Hmm.
to keep up. Like, and I think that's one of the most exciting things about creating. Like, do you find that too? Like, where you've done the work beforehand and it's the nitty gritty where you're like slaving over, like as you said to me, I think it was before we start recording, when you're doing these fast verses, like the syllables, what would you use next, and all this and all the tedium and stuff like that, when that's gone and you hit that flow state, like how does that feel for you? Because is it different when you're creating music than when you're writing literature?
Oh my God. It's so while I'm writing, like coming up with the concept and stuff before I actually put the song together, it's stressful. So
Yeah.
like I'm doing like research. I'm watching, like, if there's 7 movies in a franchise, I gotta watch all 7 of those movies like 5 or 6 times in a row, write down
Yeah.
everything I know about those movies. Like the amount of stuff that I scrap at the end is crazy. Like
Yeah.
I'll write one song and then have like an album's worth of material that I just put to the side for maybe later, or just scrap all together if
like
it's too specific to that movie.
like for example, King, like I touched upon it earlier, how hard was that to write? Like if
It
anybody,
took me like 2 years to write that song.
I well believe it, because Stephen King, like if all like what insanity came across your mind, was like, I'm going to dip my toes into the world of this gigantic icon that has so much content that I have to touch upon to create this like fluid narrative that you did, that because that song is insanely good. So like, what was it like? What was your thought process? Why did you do, like, it's such a big challenge? What made you take it on? Like,
Well, at first I was like, well, I haven't done any Stephen King uh songs yet. So I was gonna like pick a villain. I was gonna do like, Pennywise or Randall Flagg or like,
Jack Torrance or
Carrie or
something?
something like that. But then I couldn't decide on it. It was like 3 months of me, like, obviously like working on other stuff and coming back to it. Like I don't just work on one thing at a time. So I'm like coming back to it, like, what do I do? Which character do I write about? And I start coming up with a few rhymes here and there, and I'm like, why don't I just fucking do all of them? Just see how many references I can squeeze into 4 minutes. And I didn't do a hook or anything; it's just straight bars. Um, so like what I originally did was I wrote down every film or TV adaptation of a Stephen King novel. I wrote a list of all
Hmm.
of them, and then just started rhyming the titles, what rhymes with needful things, what rhymes with Carrie, what can I say about Carrie, what can I, what did Pennywise do? Is there a scene in that movie that I want to fucking reference or whatever? So yeah, it took a really long time because there's so many references. I don't even remember. I think I watched like 58 Stephen King movies within like 7 months.
And like, were you just constantly writing notes as you were watching them?
Yeah. I like whenever I'm watching a movie or what, like you'll see me like at work or just out hanging out with friends. If I'm on my phone like this, I'm writing something. I like just thought of something. I have to write it down.
I'm the exact same way into notes.
Yeah. And like people will talk to me, and like all my friends and family, they all know like how my brain works. Like if I'm zoned in on this, like I can't talk to you. I'm sorry. I'll be with you in a sec. I just got to finish this because like I'll just forget it. It'll be here and gone.
Yeah, dude, I'm the exact same. Like 50% of the time, if I'm on my phone and work or on the bus or anything, like I'm like literally just like writing down dialogue scenes or like interactions. So if anyone wants to look over my shoulder to think I'm insane, like
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
I can imagine somebody like on the bus behind me going like, "Is this guy gonna fucking kill somebody? This guy planning a murder out in the
open?" It's like, the amount of times I've written about like gory scenes, I'm like, oh yeah, decapitations and stuff like this. Yeah, it's like, oh geez, I hope nobody looks over my shoulder right now. I'll be getting signed in. But like,
oh yeah. Like if people, if my phone got stolen or somebody hacked into my phone, they would probably institutionalize me.
Oh, dude, like that's what they always say, like a write your search history, like,
yeah, yeah, no kidding too, because like I just wrote a song for my new album about serial killers, where like we reference as many serial killers as we can. It was like a challenge between me and my buddy, and so like my recent search history is all, what did this serial killer do? How did he get away with the murders? Like, it's just. Yeah, the writer's research history. That would be a hilarious leak.
Dude, like literally, I'm working on a book at the moment, and it's all about the Nazis and the occult and stuff like that. So
okay,
my search history is like literally, if anyone wants to look at my search history, so A Lonely Lighthouse is about a dude in a lighthouse. So like it's literally veers from lighthouses to Nazis and the occult. They're like, this dude got radicalized really quickly somewhere along the way. You're like, he was into like mariners. He was like searching on the sea or something, and all of a sudden it's with the Nazis. Like, it's like, what happened? Like, what happened to this guy? Another good egg turned rotten, But like, that's what I love about it though. Like if you're like me, researching is so much fun, dude.
Oh like, yeah, like sometimes if I decide I'll do a movie or like a franchise or something, before I even pop in a movie, sometimes I'll just like go to the wiki page, go to the IMDb page, and like write down facts about it, write down actors' names, like I'll already have notes before I even start.
Yeah, like, and it's really important though as well, because it lends a great amount of authenticity to the work. Like, because you do the right research, whether or not you're creating a horror or science fiction or anything, you're going to need real world influences to inspire you. Like, because like when I was writing The Lonely Lighthouse early draft, and I was like, shit, I don't know anything about lighthouses. Like, you know what I mean? I was like,
but now I bet you're an expert.
Yeah, well, I know. I could tell you about Fresnel lenses and clockworks and 1900s lighthouse technology for some reason, but like, yeah, like that's the thing. Like, but like the thing I really garnered from my research was like the incredible loneliness these people feel on these, and like when they're looking through, like when they're serving in these lighthouses, like even though there's two families, like and the monotony, like so. Being able to actually look about what a lighthouse keeper does on the day-to-day and figuring that out, that was able to create so much more like authenticity and give me a better insight into the minds of what this guy would be like on this island. You know what I mean? Because
it's almost like method acting a little bit, because you got to put yourself in their positions and like feel what they feel and think what they think.
Yeah, and that must be really important for you, because as you said earlier, you like to be in the POV of the villain. Like, so
trying to get in their head, Like when I did the Chucky song, Chucky is like a cocky little bastard. So a lot of that song is bragging about how I'm gonna kill you and get away with it.
Like, but did you? So that make you like watch the movies differently now? Like, do you want like when
Yeah.
you initially watched them, you were a fan and you became like a fanatic, and like you know what I mean? Like you were just a casual. Like we all start off as casuals and then we become fanatics. Like, but now, like I noticed when I had to do movie reviews, I had to watch movies differently, analytically and stuff. But like when you're trying to get into the head of like a Charles Lee Ray, like a Chucky, or like a Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, like Freddy Krueger, I assume, and Chucky be easier because they're more vocal. But when you're trying to get
like
into
there's
the
a
head
lot
of
of
a Michael
quotes I
Myers,
can use, but like
yeah,
for people like Jason or whatever, like never said a fucking word. So what am I gonna say? I gotta like, what's he thinking? You know, more than what's he saying. Like, how does he feel about it?
Yeah, and like, how does he perceive his victims?
Yeah.
Like
Why
does he have?
are you doing what you're doing, and how does it make you feel? It's almost like I'm a therapist trying to scoop it out of his head.
Let's hope you do better than Doctor. Oh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Doctor Loomis. Oh my God.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, I'm such a loser. I can't believe I didn't put up. Like Dr. Loomis should have come to me like that. I am upset. Like I love the Halloween franchise.
Man,
like,
I do so many of these podcasts, and like, oh man, there's been so many times where I'm like, oh shit, can we cut that part? Because I couldn't remember CJ Graham's name one time for a podcast, and I was like, fuck, what's his name? And I was like, man, my fans will eat me alive if I don't remember this. Because I'm supposed to be the horror guy. I'm the guy with the knowledge. I do all the studying and research. I should know these things, but every now and then you have a brain fart and you can't fucking think of something.
Yeah,
I'm human.
It's like when people say to you, "What's your top 5 favorite horror movies?" I know about
it
1,000 of
what
them.
Day you ask me.
Yeah, you're like, I know about 1,000, but I just can't remember any of them right now for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like
You've got mail. I don't know.
Yeah. I was on a podcast a few months ago, and the dude's like, Corey Castle. Shout out to Corey Castle, he's a legend. And he says to me like, "What's your top 5 favorite horror movies, dude?" I was like struggling after 3, and I was like, that's a really good question. What are my top 5 favorite horror movies?
Like, you don't want it to be a bad list. Like, you want it.
Yeah.
You want it to be an impressive list, but at the same time, like sometimes I just like dumb shit. Like I don't. I try not to put stuff like Halloween and The Thing and Pumpkinhead and like the classics in my top lists, just because like everybody expects that. Everybody's heard it a million times. So I try to like do stuff that's like a little lesser. Like I would say one of my favorite movies of all time that's always on my list is In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh,
Sam Neill, John Carpenter. They're one of the best movies I've ever seen.
1990, 1991, something like that, was it? Is that something like that?
95 or 96, I think.
Oh, really? Really? Later? Oh,
something like that.
Dude, I am rusty on the old horror knowledge today. Like, what is going on? Yeah, I swear I did have a horror podcast. I used to write for a horror website. I swear to God, I've seen the movie Halloween.
It's so funny. It's so funny because like you don't want to stumble. Like I just did a TV interview. Like I was on the news here in Alberta a little while ago talking about my Stephen King song. And like we had a little chat before we started, kind of like we just did. And oh my God, I was so nervous. I was like, I'm going to swear on live TV. But no, it was good. And like, I try not to fumble over my words, and I practice answering questions sometimes like a loser. But
no, that's good practice though. Media training, everybody does some sort of like, man, like you must have heard me mumbling the intro to myself like 5 times before you start recording. Like.
Oh yeah, dude. It's almost like warming up to record. Like whenever I record a song, I'll try to get through the whole first verse in one take without stopping and just like see how that sounds to me, and then go, oh, that didn't sound good, and I'll do this differently. Because once you hear it, you start thinking about the actual flow and writing a little bit differently. So like I rarely ever put out the first take of a song. Like it's usually I've recorded that song 2 or 3 times before you've heard it.
Yeah, like it's the saying, the first draft is you telling yourself the story. You know what I mean?
But like when it's a situation where it's just like me and you talking, I don't have time to practice it and go over it a few times.
Yeah, like what I do before I write, a lot of times like music has become incredibly important to me for the creative process. So like sometimes I listen to music for like an hour before I start writing, and like
Yeah.
to get me in the mindset. Like when I was listening to writing Lonely Lighthouse, it was really like morose music, like some Audio Slave stuff like that. Like you know, where it's like a Stone. Do you know that song like a Stone, where it's like it's
Yep.
really heavy because like I wrote the Lonely Lighthouse to music. I wrote it to a piece of instrumental music from Westworld. Have you seen the Westworld the Westworld remake?
Yep.
The first two seasons, in my opinion, were some of the best written television of all time. Some of the dialogue and the script is incredible. But like the soundtrack by Ramin Djawadi, there's a piece. It's called Dr. Ford's theme, and I was having a really hard time writing Lonely Lighthouse until I came across that. I started listening to music, doing my outlines, and because I never listened to music when I was writing River of Bones, and I started listening to music when I was doing the outlines, and the outlines started popping. I was starting to find all the solutions to these kind of dead ends I was running into constantly, and then I was like, oh my god, music's really like it really helped. Like so, I started like
Oh
seeing
yeah.
like maybe I can actually and maybe I can write to music, you know, and I ended up writing Lonely Lighthouse entirely to this piece of music on a loop, and it's just this 30
Dude,
minute like loop.
maybe you should do like an audio book and have see if you can like, uh
Get the
get the
rights.
right to do it or something. I mean, that's usually a little harder, but like
Mm.
it would be cool to like if you were a musician and a writer or if you knew a composer to like come up with a big piece of music, write the whole thing to that music and then do the audio book or whatever accordingly like that. I don't has that been done? Maybe it has. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like what I noticed was when I was writing to music, it elevated my imagination because sometimes the music was out of sync with what I was writing, like because it's a loop. But like sometimes
Yeah.
the music would hit perfectly for the scene I'm in, and it would elevate how I perceive the scene because it's like when you watch a movie, and sometimes like the music is what elevates the scene, and I was kind of benefiting from that constantly because like you have like a Ramin Djawadi who's like being paid by HBO, so you have a world class composer and you listen to that kind of level of music when you're writing it. It's going to help you to no end. Like, and it was just really important for me because like that little novel kicked my ass, dude. It was so tough to write because River Bones finally comes out when I'm 600 years old. Like like the people see that I'm a dialogue heavy writer. I love dialogue exchanges. I love dialogue to move on to give exposition and like so when I wrote The Lonely Lighthouse, it's about one dude and there was no real dialogue. So like it's all prose and it's all like inner monologue and stuff like that. And it was just incredibly difficult for me to actually get through the drafts. Like first draft was 20,000 words long. The final draft is it's just shy of 40,000 words long. And to get through those stages was so difficult. And if it wasn't for the music, I don't think I would have managed it to because like it just kicked my ass, like because as I said, like when you have one guy, like my saying is I gotta give this dude some side missions, like you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah. You get fatigued. You get writer's fatigue, right? Like if I
Mm,
work on something for too long and if I'm sitting there staring at my phone and I haven't like written anything down in 5 or 10 minutes, I'll just close it, go do something else, or like open a new note and start writing for another song. I gotta step away from it every now and then. And same thing when I'm
mm.
like editing the music videos, the lyric videos I put on YouTube. It just gets so tedious, like the cutting and like, oh, this frame, and it's just
Editing's
so
horrible.
tedious and takes forever. So like, yeah, sometimes just stepping away and doing something else, keep your mind off it for 5, 10 minutes, and then you come back and you fucking hammer it in.
Yeah, do you ever like sit in front of your computer or whatever and you're just like today's not the day? Like do you ever be
Oh
staring
yeah,
at it for like an
a
hour?
lot. Sometimes, oh man, I mean, like the day before yesterday, I sat down and I just like put on a beat. I opened my notes and I wrote 3 songs. Like
Yeah.
just
Oh my
in a
god.
sitting, I wrote 3 whole songs just like then.
Yeah.
But like sometimes I'll just sit down, be in the mood to write, put on a beat, and
Yeah.
I can't fucking think of anything. And I feel like I wasted that day. I wasted that time.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Mm.
that's just
But
kind
it's
of
not.
you got to accept that sometimes you're just fucking not in the zone. You're not feeling it.
Yeah. And yeah, it is really frustrating, like because like as you said, like you wrote 3 songs the other day. Sometimes like when I sit down and like you imagine something, and you like I wrote like when I was writing Lonely Lighthouse, I wrote it was a pretty short chapter. Don't get me wrong, but I wrote an entire chapter in one sitting, and there wasn't too many alterations that I had to make after it because I thought about that chapter for weeks and weeks and weeks until I was getting to it, because it was a chapter I was adding after I'd finished the draft that I'd done. I had to go back and add a chapter earlier because I felt that it was beneficial to the story. So for weeks and weeks and weeks, I had to think about how it fitted in with the chronology. How do I move from what I previously had into this chapter, and how do I move from that chapter into the next chapter that already exists, and stuff like that. And so for weeks and weeks and weeks, I was thinking about this and trying to capture the character's voice in my head. So by the time I was actually like, yeah, today's the day, I'm ready to go, I sat down, dude, and I wrote that chapter. Like, and as I said, it was so heavily thought about that. Like, by the time I wrote it, I just did it all in one sitting. After I redrafted, there was very little alterations. I fleshed out a couple of the paragraphs. I added a couple of more details, kind of, painting the picture a bit better. But like the bones of that chapter was pretty much stayed untouched because for weeks and weeks and weeks I thought about it, because like I did the book and I'm like, shit. Do you ever do that when you're finished something? You're like, shit, it could do with just a little bit of something else. And then you
the
have
worst
to,
is when the project is done and released.
oof.
Like, you ever go back on one of your books and go like, fuck, I should have said this, or I should have added this, I should have did this different. I do that all the time. I usually I usually give it about 3 weeks, and I hate a song once it's out.
I haven't released anything yet because like my editor kept saying to me, you're going to have to let it go of it sometime.
That's a huge thing about, like, because dude, it's never done. It's never going to be done. It's never going to be good enough. It's never going to be what it was in my head before it started. So like sometimes, they're right. Your editor's right. You just got to fucking release it and do something else. Just work on the next thing.
Yeah, that's well, my strategy is like I did 2 books at one time. So I worked on River of Bones, and it's like you said, when I didn't have that juices for that, I went and did the Lonely Lighthouse, and I'd work on that for a few weeks or a week or two, you know what I mean? And then I'd go back into River of Bones because it gives you a thought process. Like, but like with River of Bones, man, because it was my guinea pig, like, I've never written that before, and it was a large scale thing. Like the only thing I've written before is movie articles, like reviews, like essays, 2,000 word long, like, that kind of thing. Like I think the largest article I did might have been 3,000 or 4,000 words or something. I think that was because I was outlining an entire football season for a sports website. And so to write something that's like over 90,000 words long, like it's incredibly difficult for my first time. So like what I kept doing was I just kept using my guinea pig. Like, I kept redrafting and teaching myself new ways and doing more research, talking to Bengali, who I've mentioned in many podcasts. Like he's absolutely like incredible for me because he's a well-established independent author. So he was able to talk to me through the process. He taught me how to write in past tense. It was so funny. He was like watching The Matrix at the time, and I kept getting confused. And I was like, because I wrote River Bones entirely in present tense first, right? And this is how little I knew about writing. It's like, so I'm reading the Man in the High Castle, and I start seeing all these dialogue tags are said and not says. And I'm like, wait, that's different than what I'm doing. It's like, wait, shit, what I wrote, is that wrong? Like, so I start doing like I start asking people, like,
I feel that, man.
So I start asking people, it's like, is present tense wrong? Like, why is the dialogue tag saying said in these books? Like, and then I start realizing that the prose is all written in the past tense. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? And I was like, it's shit. It's like what I did wrong. I sent it to my editor for editor review. She goes, yeah, most books are written in past tense, and like River Bones, like, she looks, it looks okay in present tense. And I was like, yeah, but I just want to do what everyone is like. I want to do what the professionals do, So I went.
But I mean, like sometimes like being original and standing out, like that's where it's at too. Like I mean, besides like Ice Nine Kills with like their metalcore stuff, nobody's really doing what I'm doing. Like nobody's writing from the perspectives of horror movie villains specifically. Like maybe an artist has done it once or twice, but like nobody focuses their career on it like I'm doing. So I think that's kind of what has carried me as far as I've gotten so far, and will continue to carry me. Just because, like, if I was just a rapper rapping about whatever, rapping about my life or whatever, I don't live an interesting life. I'm a fucking movie nerd, man. I just drink a beer and watch a movie. Like, that's like most of my life besides doing shows and going to work and stuff. So like, doing something that's different that you've never seen before. I find that's like one of the most important things about creating something
But
that
I know,
you won't see very often.
but it's the fundamentals. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I
my
get that
fundamentals
too. Like,
suck. Like my
yeah, you
fundamentals
don't want to
suck. Like
completely change the game.
yeah, when I started, dude, like I knew so little. My first Google search is like how to write a novel. Like is there, like I wrote River Bones as a 10-part miniseries because I always wanted to be a screenplay writer. That was my dream, be a screenplay writer or to be a graphic novel writer. That was my dream. And so I wrote it as a script so it could be converted into a graphic novel script if I wanted to. Couldn't find a sequential artist. So I was like, how do I create this without needing anybody else? For now, you know what I mean? Like, how could I create this book without like tell this story? I thought it was a decent story, you know, and because I always wanted to cut my teeth, so I was like, okay, I guess I have to write it as a novel. And then I was like, been so long since I read a novel or anything, so I was like, I literally Googled. I was like, I opened it up and I had my 300 and something page outline from the 36-minute scripts or whatever, the 36-page scripts I wrote. So I was like, I had that there, and I was like, I had loads of information. A lot of it got like ditched and altered over years, and I was like, I had my computer and I had my outline. I'm like, go to write. I'm like, shit, how do you write a novel? You know what I mean? So, and so like literally my first Google search is like, how do you write a novel? And like and literally, like I had to figure out over time, like you know what the format was, indentation, spacing, like that's what I used to always say to myself: indentation, spacing, like you know. And just like had this thing where I was constantly saying to myself, and these are things like the fundamentals, like even like my editors used to kill me like for run-on sentences. I used to have really bad punctuation, like and like literally that's what I say. That's how raw. Like that's why I want to tell people if people have a dream or whatever. Like I had so little knowledge of writing, and I'm like only a couple of months away from releasing my first book. Like literally, don't you know what I mean? Like so, it's if you're willing to do the work, you must know this yourself. Like
Oh yeah.
rapping doesn't come easily. Like of all the kind of genres that you picked, rapping is such a. We talked about this before we got in here. Remember I said to you, I was like, I love memorizing the words of songs. I'm trying to memorize the words of rap songs are almost impossible at times because they're so fast. So like when you like if you have to start off and being so raw like the way I was, like where you have literally you're asking Google how to write a novel, and like what was that like for you? Like when you're trying to start into a genre that's so tough and so creative in terms of like how difficult it is to actually not just write one, but to actually perform it, like to perform a rap song. Like what was that like? How bad were you at the start, and how much have you progressed through the years?
I don't even want to think about how bad I was.
It's humble.
Like my
I'll
first,
keep you humble. I'll keep you humble.
my first like the mixtape that I did with Obscene Division on Bandcamp called KSW. I suggest you check it out. I think it's on SoundCloud, but it was like I was trying to find my style. Like I didn't have a style. I didn't have a flow. I didn't have a cadence. I didn't have like my character Poltergeist. I was just like trying to do what everybody else was doing. Like I had a party song, a sad song, a fucking, a rappy song. It was a lot of like self-discovery at first, but then, you kind of come into yourself a little bit and like decide on like, okay, I want to sound like this. I want to do this. This worked for me. I really like how this is going. And you just build on it over time. So like, I tell every like artist, like especially rappers, like when they want to start and they want to start putting out songs, don't put out your first 5 songs. Keep them to yourself, and then like 6-7 months later, come back to it and then rewrite it.
Yeah.
Because like my first shit, I fucking hate it, man. I can't even listen to it. Like you said, you were listening to my old album, Keep It PG, from 2015 earlier.
Yeah,
I can't stand that album now. Like the only reason I left it up is because fans of mine are like, yeah, keep it up. I still listen to it. And I'm like, I don't know how you can, but
yeah, dude,
but that's just me, right? Because like I know that like my new stuff is so much more developed, but that's just because I've been thinking about it and I know that like step by step, exactly by the minute, how much better my flow and style is since then. But like people don't hear that. People don't hear the work. They just see the success from doing it,
Yeah, the finished product.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's there's not, but when you, it's kind of like when you look back at past experiences as a human being and you cringe and you know you've progressed
Yeah.
as a person. But like, so when you there's, oh my god, when you read your old stuff,
Oh,
like dude, like if I was to look at the first draft of River Bones now compared to the work that I had to put into to make it publishable, I would vomit on myself. Like, oh my god, like
yeah.
dude, like dude, I was like half quoting movies and stuff, like, and I'm like, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, when you're writing literature, and I'm like, oh, that's plagiarism. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know what I
Dude,
mean?
oh man, that happens to me. That happens to me as a rapper a lot. Like I'll write a line and like just like have it in my notes, and then I'll hear another rapper say that, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. You're like, shit, did I hear that first? Or did we
Yeah.
just like
Or like
Convergent Evolution?
a brand new song. It happened Childish Gambino put out a song. I forget what the song or what the rhyme was, but he
I love
fucking
him.
spit a bar that I already wrote. And I'm like, damn it, I should have fucking put that out earlier.
Yeah, dude, that happened to me with the book I'm writing now is called We Are Many, was a feature length screenplay that I'd written called Bunker. And I literally, not to give away about the story because it's completely different now, but like I was like, I had the premise. And have you ever seen Overlord, produced by J.J. Abrams? And it's pretty much about super soldiers and Nazis. And
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I nearly finished the third draft of it, and I go to the cinema with my ex, and I'm sitting down. There's a trailer for Overlord, and I'm
You're
like,
like, that's
why?
my fucking book.
I'm like, why died? And I see out the corner of my eye, and my ex is like slowly turning to me because she knows what I'm out of it.
Hey, at least you know it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what people said. And I was like, it's done now, though. And then, like, you know, because there was other movies like, you know, Outpost and stuff that did something similar like that. I think it was Outpost, and but like, yeah. So I veered off into the occult because like it's cool though, like, you know, because as you said, you know, it's a good idea, but like originality, like what I like to do is I like to take things that have influenced me and put my own original spin to. Like, We Are Manny's going to have a lot of The Thing in it. The Thing is like my favorite movie of all time. It's like We Are Manny's going, it's going to be completely different subject matter, but it's going to have a lot of that essence. Like when you read River Bones, there's a lot you can see, lots of black sails in the dialogue, lots of Vikings in the dialogue, in the action, how I describe the gore. You'll see stuff like I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, how the transformation scenes, like, or Joseph Conrad, like in The Heart of Darkness, you know, books that I've read, movies that I watched, like TV shows that I consumed in the lead up to writing different drafts of the book were all amalgamated into it because that's what we are like as creators.
Yeah.
We are our
I mean, like,
inspirations. We are our influences. Like,
exactly. You are your inspiration. So, like,
mm.
sometimes when I go back and listen to some of my older stuff or something that I've already released, I'm like, oh yeah, I was listening to a lot of this artist when I did that. I can tell.
Yeah, you can hear it there. Like it's impossible to block out the voices because when you grow up, like what shaped your need to be a horror creator is the horror that you consume. So like the ones that you really love are always going to bleed into your works, like
Yeah.
how you perceive, like how you perceive the nighttime. Like me and you grew up in 80s horror. Like when I listen to a lot of your work, you can hear the influences of 80s horror in terms of the beats and the backing tracks, like I mentioned earlier. So when I'm writing, when I describe the night, I don't think of modernistic interpretations of the night. I think of how 1970s and how 1980s movies portrayed the night with deep blues and purples and blacks, and the way they like melded the colors together to create this like eerie hellscape or nightscape. And it was just like that's what how I picture the night. I have this kind of romanticized horror version of the night where I don't picture cityscapes or bright lights. I picture dark blues and deep colors, you know, because that's how it was conveyed to me when I was growing up and when I was digesting this kind of like kind of content originally. I grew up like my late brother William, he like was the one that introduced me into like a lot of horror movies. So like the ones I grew up on were ones that would have been movies that I wouldn't have, like they would have been before my time. That's why all my favorite horror movies are from the 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
because that's what I was given to, like that was the things I was originally what's the word I'm looking for, like originally exposed to. So when I, even to this day, my top five are nearly all classics. Like I watch the thing annually. when I picture isolation, I think of The Thing. I think of, is it Marconi's soundtrack. I try to picture like how different things are used to make things ominous. Paranoia, isolation, fear of the unknown, and it's like it's as creators, it's nearly impossible to keep that out of your mindset, because when you're imagining things, you're always going to refer to what's influenced you or inspired you. And you get that in your work as well, where like when you hit an end road, sometimes you'll build a bridge from something that's inspired you. And even if you sometimes have to go back and rebuild that bridge in your own way, but you find yourself doing that in the creative process where you hit a kind of impasse and you find yourself dipping into your gigantic movie knowledge to help you kind of cross that divide before you can go back and rebuild it in your own way.
Yeah. I mean, especially with with stuff like King or like my song Shudder exclusive, where it's all just references to horror movies. Sometimes I'll just like, okay, so with Shudder exclusive, it's kind of like King, where I'm just, the whole thing is referencing horror movies. But sometimes I'll just like put one of them on in order to, or like look up a trailer or like clips of it to kind of get the vibe of it if I don't have time to watch the full movie. Because if I'm rapping about 100 different movies, I can't just sit there and watch 100 movies. Yeah. So like, and like, let's say I'm writing about a certain movie and it's not really clicking or whatever, and I'm like, okay, what's kind of like that movie? So I'll like, let's say I'm doing a slasher flick or whatever, and I've like watched all the movies in the franchises and I'm tired of it. Sometimes I'll put on like a similar type of slasher and just like take inspiration from that. Or like I listen to like different music. I don't listen to rap a lot when I'm writing. Like I'll listen to like metal and jazz and fucking blues and fucking EDM. I'll listen to everything but rap, because I don't want to take too much influence from whoever I'm listening to rap wise at that time. Like if I'm listening to a lot of Cal Scrooby, I don't want to fucking copy Cal Scrooby. I don't want to copy his flow. So when I go to write something, sure, his influence is going to be in my writing somewhere, but I'll listen to like death metal instead. Like if it's a harder, more like lyrically aggressive song, I'll listen to more aggressive music, like more aggressive than what I'm going to even do.
And would that change your beat structure, like in terms of like when you're putting bars together, like if you're listening to like death metal, will that change the structure, or does it just influence you lyrically, but the structure stays the same?
Yeah, it would change the structure sometimes, because like let's say I'm listening to like a really speedy, choppy rapper like Tech Nine or Twista or something, and I'm trying to write something, and I'm trying to like write that style. If I'm listening to like fucking Suffocation or like fucking slam metal, it's not going to come out that way when I flow it, when I write it down. So sometimes when you want to do something rappy like that, it is best to like listen to that kind of style to get the feel for it. So it's different situations, I guess.
Yeah, like what is slam metal and what's Suffocation? Because you threw that out there, like I was like, wait, what is that?
Well, Suffocation's like they're like an old school brutal death metal band. Slam is like, they're one of the first bands to do it. It's like, you know, that kind of metal where like they stop and they slow it down, like I can't do the fucking vocals very well, but like just that guttural fucking that kind of shit. Like just like the slowed down caveman riff, chunky fucking like brutal heavy metal, where like you have no idea what any of them are saying, but it still sounds cool.
Yeah,
I like the stuff. I like the stuff that's like really vocally guttural. Like I can't do it. I'm gonna fucking kill my throat. But I love that stuff. Just like the grimy, guttural, fucked up metal. I just love it.
Dude, you look so happy when you were making those noises.
I love it.
I was like, just like unadulterated joy, like
yeah, man. Like if I hear a heavy ass fucking breakdown, man, and my face goes like this, you know I'm really into it.
Yeah.
If your face doesn't crunch, the riff's not heavy enough.
Yeah, dude. When I hear like really heavy beats, I was talking to you earlier about like I love heavy beats. So, like when I can find a new song like Start Right and where I sent to you and there's some really heavy beats. I'm like, like you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
like you're like it's
Sometimes it
kind of
just
like you see
fucking
a nice,
hits.
yeah, it just hits different, man. You know what I mean? It's just it's so good. Like it hits you right in the good parts, you know, where you're just like, that's what I'm talking
Like
about. I needed that.
in my song Pumpkinhead, right after the bridge or the pre-chorus, I guess it would be in Pumpkinhead, when that big fucking that big bass drop and the heavy synth comes in, I fucking love it. And it's
Yeah.
so
Oh
fun to
man.
do live because like you could see that in people's face when you do that live, and that fucking like nothing will from Pumpkinhead, and then the beat drops, and you can see everybody's mood change. Everybody immediately just starts fucking headbanging and moshing and shit.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Oh,
It's
dude, it's
nice to
like
see the energy back from people when you do that live.
when I listened to this song called Triceratops from Too Many Zoos, and dude, and it's just instrumental piece, but it's just like heavy beat after heavy beat. It's just so good, like you know what I mean. Like
Mhm.
that one thing as well, like that you really have over me as like in terms of creator and create process, like, you get to create and you get to perform. Like unless I'm doing some like read-alongs or something, like you know what I mean, I never
Yeah.
get to see the looks of my audience's face. So what is that like? Before, like I'll let you go soon because I know you're like we're over the hour mark and stuff, but like what's it like to see that, like when you work on a song, you like you conceptualize it, you do the finished article, you hear it in the studio is one thing, but to go out there on the stage, perform it live, and to be able to share with your audience, what is that experience like? Can you even verbalize
It's
it?
it's different, man, because like I mean, like doing I do lots of shows. I'm always like doing something. I'm opening for RA the Rugged Man this Sunday, and so like I know what songs are gonna work for his type of show because he's like a super lyrical fast rapper. So I'll take all my super lyrical fast rappy songs and put them in a set. If I'm doing something like I'm doing D12 in April, and they're lyrical, but they're more like old school boom bap hip hoppy type of stuff. So I'll slow it down and do some different types of songs for them. So like you kind of got to know your audience and know what you're going to do before you go in there, because if I go to D12 and do like all my dark horrorcore shit, it might work with some of the people, but like a lot of those guys are going to be like old school hip hop heads, so that they don't want to hear me talking about how many times I'm going to stab somebody, you know? I mean, maybe. I mean, D12 does have some like old school horrorcore stuff, but like to see the crowd respond well and to see people get into it and mosh and throw their hands up, there's no better feeling, man. It's fucking wild. I live
Man,
for it. I crave it. Like if I haven't done a show in 6 months, I get itchy for it, and I just want to like go fucking hit a karaoke or something or an open mic and just rap in front of people.
man, that like that's the thing, like because like even if I was to send you my book and you read it, I don't get to sit there and watch your reactions. You can tell me about
Yeah,
your
see,
reactions, you know what I
that's
mean?
something
It's
that
completely
like
different.
that's a crazy border between us, eh? Like you don't get the energy back. You don't get to feel what they're feeling when they're
Yeah,
reading it. And I
I
do
just get
sometimes, like
notes.
not for every song, because there's some songs that I've never done live and never will. But like for the Stephen King one, I do that song almost every time now. And to see people's reaction when you mention a movie that they know or a book that they know, and like when they get the reference and to see that in their eyes go, whoa, and then you do it again, they go, whoa, it's just nothing
Yeah.
compares. No feeling compares to that.
That song King though, it's so well done though. Like I was listening to that this morning, and dude, like there's so many times I was just like I was smiling because how impressively you're putting the different titles together and how quick the flow was. I was just like, it's such an enjoyable song. Like it's really impressive. Like, but it's so enjoyable for movie nerds because I'm just like, how? Like loads of times it's like, how does he do it? How did he do that? How did he put those two? Like, how did you make the decision like to combine certain titles and like that's what like you know what I mean? I wanted to pick your brain about how you do that, like how you break down a song from your influences, and that's what most of today has been doing is picking your brain because I've been really listening to your music, and it's very impressive to not only do rap but to actually be able to get all these movie titles or character references and lines of dialogue and little things that horror fans truly enjoy, like your like rap, but also the way you conceptualize it is also something impressive because it appeals to rap fans as well, because I'm a big horror fan, and as I said, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to rap, but I've got more and more into it over the past 18 months, and I can see the technical ability and I can hear it, but it also adds another layer of enjoyment to it because I love the movies. So like, you know what I mean? So there's loads of
Like a
times where
lot
I'm
of
just
my fans
smiling.
don't even listen to rap. Like most of my like hardcore loyal ass fans that have been around for years, a lot of them, like, I'm the only rapper they listen to, but like because I do the horror movie stuff and I do stuff that they love, that I love too, and like we just vibe over that, and it's not even about the music at that point. It's just about sharing something that we're both mutually agreeing on, that like we both love this thing. Here's my piece of art about that thing. Like if you're not a painter, that doesn't mean you can't appreciate paintings. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, but like, I just really enjoyed the King. I thought it was an excellent piece of music. And so before I let you get out here, man, and thanks for your time and that. But like, do you want to like recommend like a horror movie around? Because there's not going to be too many times where I'm going to have a super horror nerd like you on here. Like, hopefully, I will. I have more people that like love horror as much as I do. Like, and obviously, you even have a greater knowledge than I would. Like, so is there anything like that you've seen in the past 12 months that people might not know about, that like you want to recommend? Because I'm pretty much just asking to recommend a movie to me, and I'm just using as a guise for the show.
Well, you
Really.
said you've been watching lots of, you said you've been watching lots of foreign films. Have you seen Hatching?
No. Is that
Watch
where's that on
Hatching.
TV? Hatching? I'll find it.
Where the fuck did I watch that movie?
It's okay, dude. If it
No,
exists,
I don't
I'll
even
find it. Don't
remember
worry.
where I saw it, but I'm sure you could find it. It's fucking
I'll find
awesome.
it.
I think it's Finnish. I think it's Finnish. It
Mm.
could, yeah. But it's fucking sick. It's about this girl who finds like a giant egg, and she brings it home and like nurtures it, and it grows and grows till it's bigger than her. And I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's fucking very, very unique. Like I've never seen a movie quite like that.
Dude, could you see the split panic in my eyes there when I was like, thought you were going to hit me with a spoiler? I just like noticed myself in the camera. I was like, I look super panicked right now. All right, cool. Hatching. All right, I'll check that out. Finnish horror movie. If anybody hasn't seen it, go scope it out, right? And so Poltergeist, Corey, like, do you want to like plug any shows? I know you mentioned you got a couple of shows coming up, but do you want to plug your shows? Tell people where they can find you on social media, and then I'll let you get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So if you're anywhere near Edmonton, Alberta, this Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, I'm opening for R.A. the Rugged Man. We're doing a podcast episode called Dis or Daps, where me, Rugged Man, and Jay Reds, the other co-host, we will be on a panel, and anybody in the room, anybody at the show can put their name in a bucket, come rap over a randomized beat for a minute, and then we critique you on it. So like you get to rap for a legend like R.A. the Rugged Man, but you also get opportunities for shows because J Red's books lots of shows. I do lyric videos. I'll throw like a free feature at somebody like, hey, you want to do a collaboration completely free of charge if they're good. Sometimes we'll offer them a show or a festival spot or something like that. So it's a good way to like get out there as an artist, especially if you're just starting. It's good to like take the non-biased critique and like, you know, we give lots of advice. Like a lot of rappers don't hold the mic properly, so like I'll tell them, you know, like, here, hold it like this, you'll get the high end and low end of your voice, this and that. So I'm also doing D12 April 3rd at Union Hall here in Edmonton. I'm doing Intersect Art and Music Festival in High Prairie. What else do I have? I have something coming in March that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about, but there's something coming in March. Follow me on social media. You just look up Poltergeist OD. You usually find me. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X or whatever. I'm Poltergeist_OD. Facebook, Poltergeist Space OD. I'm on all platforms, so if you want to watch my videos, look me up on YouTube. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, whatever you use to stream music, I'm there.
Dude, your social media game is way stronger than mine. Like, oh my god, you're everywhere. I need to learn from you.
I grind every day though. Like I'm on social media, not just like scrolling. I'm talking to people all the time. I always have like 200 messages to get to at all times.
Oh my god. Dude, no, that would drive me insane. Maybe I'm better.
It's cool
at
though.
social
I like
media.
doing it. I love talking to people, talking about horror and music, and promote myself and stuff. So
Yeah,
it doesn't bother me. It's just part of the job.
yeah, like man, but like yeah, my social media game sucks, but I'll get better eventually. But man, I really appreciate your time. You're a busy dude, and it was really fun talking to you. And I want to thank you for coming on for the very first episode of Howling Moon. I also want to thank Dylan over at JG's Lounge, Jukebox Ginger himself, for welcoming me to the network and taking his shit international. It's going to be a lot of fun. Plenty more episodes to come. Thanks again, Corey. See you next time, folks. Peace. Oh, you can't see my hand. Peace.
Oh